What's up, guys? Today we have Nick Fuentes debating then with us about, are men superior to women?
Are men more superior?
No, just superior. Are men superior to women? We'll start with Nick. I'll give you 3 minutes and then 3 minutes to Dean.
Yeah, men are awesome. Women suck and they're dumb. And no, I'm kidding. Yeah, the thing is, though, men obviously were made to lead. And I do think that women should have a secondary role in society. I think that's absolutely true. I do believe in a fundamental equality between man and woman. You know, the Bible says that God created them man and woman, so we're both created with dignity and should be respected. And there's an equality before God that we both have. But we were created with two distinct and different natures. You know, they are two essential. Maleness and femaleness are essential about a person. They're essential to the soul. They're essential to the body. They come with a function. They come with a particular anatomy. They come with a brain chemistry. And as such, those things have social roles. The idea that, you know, these clearly two distinct categories, two essential types of people would be treated precisely the same or exactly the same in society, it belies the fact that they have two different natures. And I think it's obvious that men are celestial, they're individualists, they're rationalists, they're leaders, they're risk takers. They should be working, fighting, running society. Women are terrestrial, they're nurturers, they're caregivers. They should be the mothers. I don't think that they should be necessarily precluded from working. But I think that they should be encouraged first and foremost to be mothers for their benefit and for the benefit of society as a whole. And that's kind of the gist of my position.
Okay, so I have an opening statement. I guess I'll use it up. My position's pretty clear. No, one human being does not have more intrinsic moral value than another human being. I don't think that we could take this qualification of your gender identity or what's in between your legs and abstract that out to this norm of who's going to be better at leading. I'd say the qualifications of determining who's better at leading, the qualifications of determining, you know, half the shit that he named off over here is not going to be, right, what's in between your legs or your gender identity, but rather other various traits. But I guess just to make this quick, we could kind of cut to the chase here. Why do you think men are better at leading than women? I would appreciate specifics. You kind of pointed out like different natures, different biological differences, neuroanatomy, etc. I want you to name the specifics. Maybe I could ask you a question here. What are the specific biological differences between men and women that make men better at leading than women?
Smarter, stronger, all of the above. No, I mean, in actuality,
Be specific.
in actuality, what?
Are those your two qualifiers?
No, I'm being a little bit funny.
Well, be honest with me here.
The reason why they're better leaders, well, one, I think they're really only qualified to be leaders because they are physically stronger. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why we have a feminist society. It's because we live in a world where we have technology. In the old days, when there was fighting, it was very physical and it was very direct. It was hand-to-hand combat, and the only people that could do it were men. As such, the militaries that were raised up were comprised of men. The people that fought and enforced sovereignty, law, borders, all those things were men. Necessarily, then, they're the decision makers. And so, you know, the idea that it has something to do with what's between your legs, well, it has to do with what's between your legs and the fact that you have testosterone. You're physically stronger. And by the way, because you have testosterone, it means you're more aggressive. It means you're a bigger risk taker. Those are two things that are important. For a person to be a leader, they need to be able to stand against the crowd. And that means a risk taker. It means you need to be disagreeable. It involves a certain amount of aggression and a competitiveness that women simply lack. We all know that women are very agreeable, passive. Not all of them, but generally speaking, they are. They're peacemakers. They're more introspective. They're more emotional, less decisive. And all of that makes them worse as leaders. Now, there can be women that are good in particular leadership roles in certain circumstances, and individual women might. But as a general rule, because of their nature, they don't make good leaders.
Okay, thank you so much for your response there. Let's talk about it all. One of the reasons that you gave me that men are better at leading than women is physical strength. That is a totally and completely moot point. You would not be able to name me one social category in the world today where leadership is determined on purely physical strength. I also bet that you would not be willing to vote for a 15-year-old on steroids that can bench press.
Yeah, let's see an army of women defending the whole country. Let's see it. I'm sure you'll be safe, right?
600 pounds over Donald Trump just because he's physically stronger. Another point that you brought up is that women are more emotional than men. I'd actually say that's false. 72% of people who commit suicide are men. 85% of people that abuse hard drugs as an emotional reaction to like particular external stimuli are men. We see that 95% of violent crimes are committed by men. We see that men are much more likely to start wars, to start genocides. We see that men are much more likely to engage in irrational, risk-adverse activities such as
because we're capable of it. You're destroying your own argument. Women are not capable of violence as we are. That's why.
Drunk driving, reckless driving, or gambling. Meanwhile, we see women have a higher IQ and EQ on average. Women outperform men in the context of school, going to it more, getting better grades and better degrees. And we see that women could actually deal with stress better than men. And that's one of those biological predispositions that you were talking about. Women have thicker dendrites in their neuroanatomy compared to men, for the reason being that evolution has designed women to deal with childbirth. Okay, right, and that made them deal with stress better as well. That's why we see that female surgeons outcompete male surgeons. The JMA and the AMA did a massive study on 1.7 million patients on 6 continents and evaluated that if you're operated on by a male compared to a female, that you're more likely to die as a result of your surgery and you're more likely to experience postoperative outcomes. So, just a quick recap. Physical strength doesn't mean shit. I have bigger biceps than you. I bet you think you're a better leader. Emotional maturity. Women are more emotionally mature than men. Then about intelligence and all the other shit you brought up. We could get into that, but I'll let you respond to the points that I brought up so far.
Yeah, so you said it was risk averse to gamble and drunk drive. It's the opposite. You said men are more willing to drunk drive and gamble. Those are risk-taking activities, and risk-taking is fundamental in leadership.
Yeah,
that's why, yeah, well, fair enough. And that's why, you know, the richest people in the world are all men, because the entrepreneurs are men, because an entrepreneur is a risk taker. And, you know, one man's gambling is another man's entrepreneurship. One man's drunk driving is another man's self-destructive, obsessive, maniacal quest for, you know, building the best company or being the president or anything like that. It's absolutely essential. With regard to higher IQ and EQ, it is true that on average women have a higher IQ, but it's also true that the distribution is different. There's more geniuses among men. I mean, the curve, if you will, is flatter. So there's more men that are on the left side of the curve. There's more men on the right side of the curve. Although the average for women is higher, they don't have those outliers and those extremes. That's why you don't see a lot of female geniuses, and that's just true. I mean, earlier today in preparation for the debate, I asked ChatGPT, I said, name some female geniuses. They got to like 3 before they had to name a feminist. They did like Marie Curie, some ancient Neoplatonist no one ever heard of, and then it was like all the like first and second wave feminists. There's no female geniuses. There's very few female billionaires that didn't get their wealth outside of divorce. There's very few female heads of state. People say that's oppression, it's misogyny, and we all know it's because they're not risk takers, they're not tough. With regard to they handle stress better, yeah, maybe certain kinds of stress, but I think we all know women, and I think we all know that when women are put in stressful situations, they crumble.
God.
They cry, they get upset, they freak out, they call their boyfriend, they call their father. Hang on. I'll let you go on. And you said that ridiculous stuff. Hang on, let me finish. I'll wrap up, but I let you finish, and I let you say that women handle stress better. That's insane. Okay. And with regard to physical strength, you know, look, I said today physical strength is not a qualifier because of techniques, because we have missiles, we have tanks and things like that. But the point is, it used to be the case that what qualified you to lead is that you would go out there and be doing the fighting and all of that. And that is still true. It's not necessarily true in the United States, but it is still true in other countries. In countries like Israel, for example, or Iran, their presidents and their ministers are frequently military leaders that are actually having to be in the tanks and in the battlefield. And, you know, it's hard to be in the battlefield when you get your period. It's hard to be in the battlefield if you're pregnant or something like that. Men don't get pregnant. Men don't get their period. Men are physically stronger. Men have more endurance. That's why, by the way, it's not just that they're stronger, they're faster, they're all the above. That's why women don't compete with men in sports. That's why men make better soldiers. And so, you know, yeah, it kind of does matter that if there's a war, men are going to be the ones fighting and dying it, and that's why they're leading. And there's something deeply related to their biology there as well. But go ahead, since you want to interrupt me already.
Yeah, let's do something here. I've kind of like felt this way like the entire time that we've been having the discussion. I feel like we both like to talk a lot. I think that that's been evidently clear. We just kind of go at each other with like these 2 to 3 minute responses. Can I ask something from you?
What is it? Depends on what it is.
I kind of want to break down each point you've brought up and demonstrate to you why it's flawed instead of just giving these long-winded responses.
You want to do a fact check?
5 minutes, guys.
And I want to do that point by point with our last 5 minutes. The first point about physical strength. Who would you rather vote for? A 15-year-old that can bench press 1,000 pounds or Donald Trump?
But that's not what I'm not saying that the most physically strong person should be the king. I'm saying that
what are you saying?
as a category, women are not soldiers. They're not tasked with defending the country, and that is effectively what the king or the president is supposed to do, is defend the realm.
Didn't Trump dodge the draft 5 times?
Oh my. Okay, so are we just going to do the resistance liberal thing now? I said the United States, technics notwithstanding. Are you capable of understanding like a concept?
Can non-soldiers defend the country?
President Bone Spurs. We're talking about whether women should be leaders if they can't physically defend the borders.
Okay, so you'd say the weaker you are physically speaking, the worse you are at leading.
No.
So then what the fuck is your argument?
Yeah, it's like you're not even listening. I said as a category, because sex is
a category that's not going to be indicative of leadership ability, when the question is, why are men better at leading than women? Why do you name a category where we see these general biological distinctions between men and women if it's not indicative of men being better at leading than women? I asked you to name the specific biological differences between men and women that make men better at leading than women. You said strength was one of them, and now you're saying it's not. You're saying that emotional intelligence was one of them, then you conceded that women are more emotionally intelligent than men. Another point that you brought up was intelligence, specifically IQ, with the highest geniuses of the men being smarter than that of the women. I'd say there's going to be some social, like some social aspects thrown in there. I mean, if you look at like the average IQ of an Arab individual compared to a white individual at home here in the U.S., the white individual has a higher IQ. But then if you go to an Arab-dominated country in the Middle East, you'll see that the Arab individual has a higher IQ. What this means is that socialization, access to opportunity, and resources can play in, right? To like
that's absolutely false. That's why the whole continent of Africa has an average IQ of 70. Same thing with Arabs. That's why most Islamic countries are shitholes.
Deviated IQ. So of course we'd see more men having higher IQs at the end of the spectrum compared to women, just because they have more opportunity, resources, and access to education.
Oh, it's because of misogyny. It's misogyny, right? Women are dumb because of misogyny.
Well, actually, I'd say that not being in the top 10%
let me ask you a question. You ask me questions. Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question about leadership. What do you think are good leadership traits? Can you give me some examples of what like good leadership traits are?
That's a great question, and I think I'll give you a great answer. We could talk about a good morally virtuous character. We could talk about ability to get along with other people, bring people together, and get them to follow you. Another thing that I'd say, a good leader isn't just someone who could bring people together, but a good leader is also someone that can lead those people into a positive direction. The reason that leadership exists in the first place is because when you take a large group of people and you set them on their own paths, they're not going to get shit done. Thereby, you choose one of that large group of people to lead them all in what? A positive direction. So you're looking for someone with a good character. You're looking for someone that could bring people together. You're probably going to be looking for someone that's pretty damn competent as well, and someone that could like achieve like the highest level of eudaimonia for the group of people that they're leading. I'm sure there's other attributes that we could assign to leadership here, but there's going to be a general sense.
Bro, pull out eudaimonia. Look, Nick, where you're wrong.
Nick, let's do you need to respond, or let's do a 1 minute closing statement here?
Can I just respond and then we can do
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So just to respond to that, I mean, and this is kind of the whole essence of the debate.
Didn't
is you
Sneako cut me off last time? Funny. Go ahead.
you fundamentally misunderstand human nature and you know nothing about leadership. You say it's about bringing everyone together to move in a positive direction. It's like, this is a problem with Gen Z. It's like this kind of
You fucking
kindergartner.
nihilist.
Hang on. Can I finish, please? I didn't interrupt all that
Yes.
nonsense. It's just sort of like, hey, everybody, let's all hold hands and let's just create, like everyone's being nice to each other. The world is a mess, okay? The world is a knife fight. On the global scale, when you're talking about leaders and armies, it's a knife fight for existence. We're talking about companies, it's a knife fight for existence. We're talking about anything. Human competition, it's practically homicidal between people, and anyone that's serious about anything will tell you that. Anyone that's obsessed, anyone that's ambitious, anyone who is ruling, who is actually the leaders in society who earn their role there, they'll tell you the same thing. It's cutthroat. And yeah, like there are some abilities, like you said, like, yeah, you need to inspire people and things like that. But more than that, you need a willingness to do what it takes. You need an ambition. You need to take risks. You need to be willing to make decisions and stand by them. These are all qualities that purely because of gender and hormones, because of their biological role, women don't have those things. Because women have to have a baby grow inside of them for 9 months and then hear it scream and cry and take care of it and feed them from their breast and have like basically a dependent. They're just not made for that kind of competition. They have a completely care-based ethics. They're totally dependent. Men who are individuals, risk takers, aggressive, men who can exist independently of women when it's really not so the other way around. They alone have the ability to do what it takes to lead. And that's why, even with all the DEI in the world, you're still going to have men running everything. The private sector, the public sector, the military, because men are the ones that can lead. And thus, they do. It's only through ideologically motivated policies from human resources departments that you get women doing fucking anything other than like creating schedules and being nurses and being fucking teachers and stuff like that. That's just reality. Everyone knows it. And you could give me 100 studies. That's human nature.
Dean, respond, and then we'll go to
Okay,
closing statements.
Yeah, it's funny how you're saying that you can't get women to do anything. If a woman didn't do something, you want to be sitting here having this debate with me right now. But I would just wanted to respond to that. You're saying men are so
Yeah,
much
who
better.
holds the seed of life? Who holds the seed of life? Men. Can a woman have a child without a man? No. So it's not an argument.
At leading than women, and I hate women because I haven't touched one since conception. Sorry, that's not what you said. You actually said, because they're not.
I touch them. I just don't. I don't have sex with them. They're not my wife.
I don't know about that. Anyways, so
You're a racist.
I'm not gonna call
Orange
you
man
a rapist
bad.
without evidence.
Orange
anyways,
glad.
So anyway,
Go ahead,
no, you're good, man. What I was gonna ask, well, if like ambition, risk taking, and aggressiveness is what makes you a good leader, Hitler was an incredibly ambitious, aggressive risk taker. Given your qualifications, would you thereby say that Hitler is a good leader?
It's indisputable he is. Indisputably. You could even say he's evil. He made Germany great again.
I
Even
have
if
a
you believe
question.
he's evil.
Who would you rather have run our country right now, your wife or Hitler?
Hitler! Of course. I don't have a wife, but if I did, she would not be fit to run the country. I could tell you that much. She can run the kitchen. She can't run the lawnmower. I'll put it that way. And I think anyone would. One's in the chat if you'd rather Hitler over your wife. Two's if you prefer your wife. We'll let the fucking numbers do the talking over here. I don't think I'm alone in that.
Yo, this was crazy. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree or disagree, leave a like if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless you.